had always considered myself lucky when I landed a job at Mr. Beast Burger, the most prestigious and exclusive restaurant in town. Nestled in the heart of the city, it was renowned not just for its delectable burgers, but also for its opulent ambiance. The gleaming chandeliers, mahogany furniture, and soft jazz music in the background added an air of sophistication that drew the city's elite. For an aspiring writer like me, working there promised a steady paycheck and a chance to observe the upper echelons of society. Little did I know that beneath its glitzy exterior lay a sinister secret that would unravel my very sanity. I started as a server, clad in the crisp black uniform, serving plates of gourmet burgers and truffle fries to patrons who oozed wealth and influence. The clientele was as intimidating as it was wealthy. The men in tailored suits and women draped in designer gowns treated the restaurant as their own private sanctuary. One evening, as I moved gracefully through the dimly lit dining hall, my eyes landed on a peculiar sight. A table tucked in a remote corner, usually left empty, was occupied. Seated there was a man of peculiar demeanor. His age was indiscernible, his face a labyrinth of wrinkles, yet his eyes, sunken and intense, held a certain youth that sent shivers down my spine. He wore a tattered black coat and a top hat that seemed like relics from another era. His presence was disquieting, but it was his smile that made me falter. It was as if he knew something the rest of us didn't. As I approached the table, I could feel a sense of dread building within me, but I brushed it off as nerves. "Good evening, sir," I greeted him, trying to sound composed. He acknowledged me with a nod and ordered the Beast Royale, our most expensive burger. As I walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling of those piercing eyes on my back, like they were drilling holes into my very soul. The night wore on, and the restaurant buzzed with conversations, laughter, and clinking glasses. The man in the corner, however, sat in eerie silence. The plate before him remained untouched, a red and black swirl of ketchup and mayonnaise slowly oozing into one another. It was as if the food held no appeal to him, and he was here for a different purpose altogether. My unease grew as the hours passed. Every time I glanced toward his table, his gaze met mine, and a shiver ran down my spine. But the strangest part was the whispers. Faint, hushed voices seemed to dance around the edges of my hearing, as if carried on the wisps of the restaurant's luxurious curtains. I could never quite make out the words, but they sent chills down my spine. The night was nearing its end, and most of the guests had departed, leaving behind empty glasses and half-eaten burgers. The man in the corner, however, showed no sign of leaving. I decided it was time to check on him, my curiosity mingling with my growing unease. As I approached, his head snapped up, and his eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made my heart race. "Can you hear them?" he whispered, his voice like the rustle of dry leaves. I blinked, unsure of what he meant. "Hear what, sir?" "The whispers," he hissed, leaning closer. "The voices that fill this place." I glanced around, feeling a sudden paranoia that someone might be eavesdropping. "I'm not sure what you mean, sir," I stammered. "Listen," he urged, and I did. And for the first time, I heard them, the faint, ghostly murmurs that seemed to seep from the very walls of the restaurant. They were like a symphony of secrets, words that slithered through the air but remained just out of reach. My skin prickled with dread. "What are they saying?"
He leaned even closer, his breath cold against my ear.
They are trapped souls, my dear. Trapped by the opulence and excess of this place. Listen closely, and you'll hear their regrets, their despair, their longing for release. I couldn't tear my gaze away from him, even as terror clawed at my chest. "Who are you?" He chuckled, a sound like dry leaves rattling. "Call me the Watcher, for I alone can hear their cries. But you, my dear, you're special. You can hear them too, can't you?" I didn't answer, my mind a whirlwind of confusion and fear. What madness was this? The Watcher's eyes bore into mine. There's a way to free them, you know. A way to end their suffering and silence the whispers forever. I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead. He leaned back and produced a small, ornate box from his coat pocket. It was covered in intricate carvings and seemed ancient, a relic of some forgotten ritual. "With this," he whispered, "but it requires sacrifice." The air seemed to grow thicker around me, and the restaurant's ambiance took on a sinister quality. I had to get away from this man and his madness. "I have to go," Mo, taking a step back. But the Watcher's hand shot out, gripping my wrist with surprising strength. "Don't you want to free them, my dear? To silence the whispers that haunt this place?" I yanked my wrist free and stumbled away, my heart pounding. "I can't. I won't." As I made my escape, the restaurant seemed to close in around me. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, and I could feel the weight of the Watcher's gaze on my back. I fled the restaurant, leaving behind the eerie atmosphere and the haunting secrets it held. For days, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had settled over me. The whispers followed me, haunting my every step, even in the bright light of day. I tried to convince myself it was all in my head, a trick of the mind brought on by exhaustion and fear. But then one evening, as I passed by Mr. Beast Burger, I heard my name in those ghostly murmurs. "Help us," they whispered. "Save us." I couldn't ignore it any longer. The Watcher had been right. I could hear them, and they were calling out to me for help. I returned to the restaurant, determined to confront the Watcher and find a way to end this nightmare. But when I entered, the restaurant was empty, the tables and chairs covered in dusty white cloths. The Watcher's table was gone, as if it had never existed. I searched every inch of the restaurant, but there was no sign of him. It was as if he had vanished into thin air, taking his ancient box and his sinister secrets with him. I tried to leave, but the door wouldn't budge. Panic set in as I realized I was trapped inside the very place I had once considered a haven of sophistication and luxury. And then the whispers grew louder, more desperate, filling the air with their mournful cries. "Save us, save us," they pleaded. I knew what I had to do. With trembling hands, Anne retraced my steps to the corner where the Watcher had sat. The ornate box lay there, as if waiting for me. With a sense of grim determination, I opened it, and an otherworldly light spilled out. The room seemed to tremble as the spirits, the trapped souls of the restaurant, swirled around me. They were faceless, formless entities, their voices a cacophony of sorrow and longing. And then, as if guided by some unseen force, I spoke the words that would free them. The room filled with a blinding light, and I felt a surge of energy rush through me. The spirits wailed and screamed, and for a moment, I thought I had made a terrible mistake. But then, one by one, they began to dissipate, their anguished cries turning into whispers of gratitude. The room grew calm, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. When I finally left the restaurant, it was as if a heavy weight had been lifted from my shoulders. The whispers were gone, and the watcher had vanished, leaving behind only a lingering sense of unease. I never returned to Mr. Beast Burger, and the restaurant itself closed its doors shortly after my ordeal. The city's elite moved on to other establishments, oblivious to the horrors that had unfolded within those opulent walls. But I will never forget the haunted whispers, the watcher, and the night I confronted the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of Mr. Beast Burger. It was a night that changed me forever. A night when I discovered that even the most prestigious places can hide the most sinister secrets.